Hey, everybody. I am so excited about this quick pop up this morning. I hope you guys are doing well. I see you guys showing up in the chat. So go ahead and it could be good morning, good evening, good night. I don't know where you guys are popping in from, but come on in and say hello and welcome. I'm so excited to be able to give you guys this quick pop up on this Saturday. If you're watching the replay, hello and welcome. We're grateful whenever you watch it, it's the right time for you to watch it. And so I've been saying, I know that it has been a while. I don't know. People have been saying ever since the Grow Gathering launched, I've been acting funny with social media, and that may or may not be true. But I'm here this morning, and so we're gonna let that be water up under the bridge because I'm excited to be able to share something that's been in my heart and been on my heart. You guys take a minute. Hello, welcome back, and hit that share button or tag somebody in the comments and tell them, share it to your group and say, listen, we're going to need this little word. We're going to need this little inspiration. Hopefully, it's going to put some fire under some behinds this morning because y'all know if I got to show up on social media, I'm showing up with the word and some work. And so I'm excited to see you guys. Hey, YouTube, y'all checking in. I appreciate it. Hey, Facebook, I see you guys as well. I did actually do a live stream on Instagram yesterday. It was completely impromptu. I have not been just on Instagram by itself for years. I know I tried to do like a double streaming one time. A few times, but just to go live, just exclusively on Instagram. I did that yesterday and was shocked as how many people showed up. Hey, friend, and showed up on Instagram just for me to just drop a word. And it's funny because it looks like this is kind of having an effect of just a cohesive effect about what I'm talking about. Yesterday, I talked about have you closed that portal of access, and I was talking about how sometimes we have things that are happening in our lives and we're wondering how these things are circling back around, but there's a portal of access that we have not closed out. And so you guys forgive me, this has been one of the craziest weeks of my life. I'm actually preparing to be traveling for the next 7 days in a row, so it's a lot going on over here, but I'm grateful. I've been ministering for the last three. This will be the fourth weekend in a row. Just got back from Texas. I'm excited about to go to Carolina. Just have some good things coming up. I'm getting ready to fly out to Washington, and then I think I got a California trip coming up. It's a lot. I thought I was done after next week, but obviously I'm just getting started for the year. So hey, y'all, I see you guys. Thank you guys, and welcome to this pop up. I want to talk about something that is going to give us what I always like to call it some internal inventory, so we can kind of do some digging in ourselves. We're not going to be up here long, but so we can do some internal inventory and some digging. I want to address something, and then I have a special surprise for you guys, but I want to address something as we set the tone for what I'm going to be talking about really quickly this morning. I want to deal with, are you delaying your lunch? Are you delaying your lunch? Now, those of you guys that know me and been connected probably can recall in January, I had this event that I called Launch Live. And in Launch Live, my hair's going everywhere today, guys. Y'all just got to forgive me because we out here, right? And y'all know I don't project perfection because it ain't that kind. There's some days I wake up like this, and this is what y'all gonna get, right? But I was talking about in January, I did a Launch Live, and if you came to that live event, I actually did a training. I preached that night about prepare for takeoff. And then the next day, I did a very exclusive training intensive that now is only available inside of the Grow Gathering, inside of the Strategy Sanctuary. But that training that I did was about a strategy for launching. And but in that, I started talking about getting ready to launch. And I thought that it might be good for the prepare for takeoff part might be good today because it gives us an opportunity to go back and do some, I like to call reality reconciliation about whether or not we are the reason for the delay. A lot of the times I know we like to act like it was the Lord. I'm waiting on the Lord. I'm waiting for the right timing. I'm waiting on this. But today I want to just offer another perspective. Is it you? Those of you guys that have been following me for a few years know I used to have this little jingle I used to say, is it him? Is it her? Is it them? No, I would say, is it a he? Is it a she? Is it them? Or is it me? Right? And we just start having to ask because that's what we usually like to do. Is it a he? Is that who's delaying it? Is it a she? Is it them? Or or is it me? And that's when we take the time to do some internal inventory. And I want to put us on the hot seat and in the hot seat and really just figure out if the reason why I am not taking off, I am not, having this sonic boom into the next sphere of my influence. Is it because of me? Is it something that I have not done? All right, Hideout season 6. I see y'all in the house. And so I really want us to talk about that this morning. I want us to really look to see if there are places where we have been stagnant places. And I'm going to just kind of take you through what I preached on at my lunch in my lunch live. That is really just going to talk about the actual semantics of what it takes for an actual launch rocket to launch, and then we're going to have some dialogue and some conversation about are we guilty of that? And so if you're not afraid of saying ouch and amen, then this is the place for you. And I want you to take a moment. Thank you guys for jumping on and hit the share button, invite somebody in for this early morning pop-up, because before we get out there renting the Target and doing all of this stuff and hitting Publix and going to the mall and whatever we trying to do, I want us to be concerned about whether or not we have walked into the totality or even began to go into what it is that God has called us to and called us to be and to do in this particular area of our lives. Now, one of the things that I'm very certain about is that all of us launch differently and all of us carry different cargo. That means one person's launch is not going to look like somebody else's, but it also means that everybody is not going to assume the same rate of acceleration. There, it may take some people might be honest, and I want you, as you start thinking about even this live, and as you're commenting, I want you to start thinking about what phase you're in when it comes to launching. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and poll the people. I want you guys to tell me, like, all right, are you in phase one where you're supposed to launch, but you have not even put your stuff together to even begin looking at it? You throw a number one if that's you. You're just in that beginning phase. I don't even know where I am. I know I'm supposed to be doing something. I don't even know what that is. I have no idea right now. Throw a number one in the comments if you're just saying, I have no idea. Now, if you have an idea, but you know what you're supposed to do, you just don't know how you're supposed to do it. You're not really sure how to put that thing together. You throw a number two in the comments. If you're just saying, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, I just really don't know how to get that particular thing done. I'm not really sure about the placement of things and what goes first and how do I move forward in it. I am just really not sure. I know I'm supposed to be doing something. I even know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not sure. I see y'all in the comments. Okay, cool, 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 cool. And then last but not least, if you're saying, look, I know what to do. I know how to do it. I just need some accountability and a push. The truth of the matter is I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know exactly. I know I need to get this done and finish this. I started on it, but I have not, because I just really need a drill sergeant, somebody that's going to make me be accountable to the stuff I know I said. Throw a number three. Just go ahead and tell on yourself this morning. We're not even playing games. It's too early. I love it. One, two, three, and four. If that's you, if you're just saying, I need a kick in the behind, I need somebody to check me and say, where your stuff at? I thought you said you were going to be doing this, that, and the third. You put a number three in all of them. All right. So then if you are someone fit these qualifications, then this morning's live is just for you. So once again, good morning. I'm Dr. E, and I am founder of the Grow Gathering, the absolute best growth hub that I feel like in the world. And as always, I always invite you guys to be a part of the Grow Gathering. It's not a church. It's just a growth hub where you will advance personally, you can advance spiritually, you can advance entrepreneurially, and you can advance organizationally in your leadership capacity and skills. And so I'm excited about it. I'm going to bring with me this morning a special guest. We're going to have a conversation. And, I had to pull somebody who, we understand we don't play no games. Y'all about to get grilled, and it's about to be real because, we got to get some real talk. And I want us to have some conversation about the mindset delays, the things that we may be responsible for when it comes to not being able to move into what we're supposed to do you, and I pulled in an expert who knows about launching. One of the things when I pull folks up, I don't pull people up that's always trying to project perfection. Y'all know me, I've always been real, raw, and relevant. Y'all always know that I'm gonna tell the truth. I talk about my wins and my losses. I talk about when I'm flunking, and I also talk about when I'm flying. And I think it's very important for you to be connected to people who are going to be able to identify where you are because they've been there, not because they read it in a textbook, not because it floated out of the sky and they just had this grand epiphany, but because they're saying, listen, me too. And because I don't want to take you somewhere I haven't been. I know there are a lot of people who teach certain levels of strategy and say I can teach you something whether or not I've reached it or not. I'm just the kind of person that is going to say, you know what, let me get there first, let me make sure, let me look around, because I don't want to send you somewhere and then there's some pitfalls and some roadblocks that you're not prepared for because I went there. I can just give you the semantics of it. No, let me walk this thing through and come back and give this to you. And so good morning, you guys. And so I want to bring before you guys I call her Dr. Nikki, you can call her Dr. Nicole Roberts Jones. But she is going to introduce herself, but she is someone who is well versed on helping us decipher our dissonance when it comes to our destiny, being able to launch forward and move forward. She actually has a proven track record of having helped people in both the Christian world, but also the secular world, into being able to launch and being able to activate who they are and how they are. And so, if you will, welcome with me, Dr. Nicole, as I bring her in. Hey, hey, Dr. Nikki.
Excited to be here. Excited, trying to, stay calm because you always get my spirit going, girl.
I'm so glad to have you here. Listen, introduce yourself to these people. Let them know who you are and what you do, because they're going to be in for a ride this morning as we share.
So since I love how you talked about being transparent, so I'm gonna tell you right now, y'all buckle your seatbelt because I am fully transparent. So let me tell you my story of how I got here real quick. It won't be long. So I've been doing this year will be 31 years. When I say that, I'm like, Jesus, how old are you? Right? Anyway, so So, real quick, I started my undergraduate degrees TV and film. Dreamed of being in entertainment my entire childhood. And there I was working on the hottest TV show on Fox. In casting, I worked on some big TV shows, some big films, people you've seen on TV and have looked at on films. And yet I felt like something was missing. So I couldn't understand how I could feel like that. And some of you may be there right now. And what I know now is God was stirring up my soul. Every time I tried to talk to one of my girlfriends about it, they kept saying, Nicole, are you crazy? You realize where you work and how much money you get paid. And yet I felt still like there was a hole in my soul. And so one Friday night, one of my girlfriends said, let's volunteer at this youth program at our church. And that night, as I started working with young women, as their eyes lit up, my heart lit up. And I said, oh my God, this is it. By the way, this was 1993. I had never heard of a coach. And yet, for the first time, my soul was alive. So I had a decision to make. I'm starting with that because right out of the gate, some of you haven't launched because you got a hard decision to make. Let me explain to you that your faith don't get activated until you are in the face of fear. Come on, somebody. So knees knocking and teeth chattering. I started that business. Now let's cut to 17 years in. Okay, so here comes a real transparent moment. Y'all ready? 17 years in. So back then, this is now 2010, my business looked successful. I had a nonprofit and a for-profit division in my business. And my nonprofit, that little work I did at my church that night, had become a program for African-American teenage girls. I had it in 13 churches throughout the country, and we were growing by leaps and bounds. It became its own nonprofit. And my for-profit, coaching women like all of you to get clear on what your purpose is and start a business, I had a maxed out coaching client roster, meaning I couldn't take another client. So in 2010, I wrote my first book, thinking, okay, at least I can give my principles to women since I can't take on clients. And and so listen, when that book came out, I started getting invitations to speak all over the country. So my business was where I had dreamed of it going, y'all, doing all the things, speaking at women's events and church empowerment summits and doing all the things. And yet my business was only generating $13,000. Mm-hmm. I'm introducing myself to you this way because I'm going to tell you my problem, and many of you, is that you don't go through the basics and you try to leap to the advanced. And here I was already teaching. I was an adjunct professor teaching in graduate school, and yet my business was failing. So it wasn't that I didn't have the equipment. It wasn't that I wasn't wired for takeoff. It's just that I was disconnected. It took me hiring a coach to get a clue and working with that coach. In 6 months, I went from 13,000 to over 200,000. And I'm going to tell you the secret ingredient, I was overlooking parts of my brilliance that I had not developed. And so that's who I be. I'm known as a bankroll your brains expert, but here's what I also know. This is my calling. God has called me to the marketplace because he needs you. There's a reason you have a gift. There's a reason you have this stirring in your soul. What's that Bible verse? Stir up the gift. We here to stir it up. And so there's my introduction.
Wow, y'all heard it. And I think I love this, Dr. Nikki, because as I said earlier, we've got to stop projecting perfection because we have a lot of people out there who and some of you guys may feel the same way if you're honest and you're saying, I started off strong. You know, most of y'all know my story. That's how it is. We get out there and we jump and I just got a word from the Lord and that's all I need. Yeah, I don't know where y'all get that from because God is a master strategist. And one of the things that he says is that out of all of your getting, that means out of all your getting, the spirit, the peace, the excitement, the anointing, get understanding. And a lot of the times when we're ready to launch, one of the delays is because we say to ourselves, we try to be spiritual about it, but we sometimes can walk in willful ignorance. We say, you know what, as long as the Holy Spirit is leading me, yeah, but a lot of times he'll lead you to someone who can give you the semantics, who can give you the strategy, who can help you streamline what it is that you're trying to get. And we can't overlook people who God has fashioned, who he has anointed to get us to the next level, because it looks clear. I always say this, when we're in front of something, we have front row view and we're just saying, but I see everything I need to see, but we don't have aerial perspective. We don't have drone vision, and we can see something else. Somebody who's already went before you to make cricket ways straight can say, hey, that's exciting, but if you don't slow down here, then you might end up here. And so we're going to take you guys through some things as it relates. And I'm going to show you just how good Dr. Nikki is because I didn't send her not one thing prior to this conversation. I was like, we're just going to jump in and we're going to talk. But this is one of the ways that you recognize someone who is able to help you cultivate, help you position yourself. As I said earlier, for you guys to take a quick poll about where you feel like you are on the spectrum of launching. You either have no idea what you're supposed to launch, you either know that you're supposed to do something, you just really don't know how to do it, or you know exactly what you're supposed to do, but you just need a good swift kick in the behind and some accountability to get you to that place. And we both have some amazing programs that will fit you at whatever stage that you are in. But I want to, Dr. Nika, I want to talk about launching in the natural. And as I go through these steps that an actual rocket in real time goes through, I want you to help us identify what that translates over into our personal life, because I want us, as I said earlier, us to identify, are we delaying our own launch? Now, the first thing that happens in the natural when a rocket ship is about to launch off into the stratosphere is that for 12 hours up to even a day before the launch, the rocket has to be transported to the launch pad. That
Mm,
means that it's not already in position. That means that there is a transplanting, there is a uprooting that has to happen from one location to its intended location. And I know that a lot of the times we want to launch from where we are right now. We want to be able to say, I'm just ready to shoot off. But a actual real rocket has to be transported in the natural, and this could be up to a day before it's time. This, so in other words, this happens. This, you don't get transported to the right place of your lunch of the day that you're supposed to lunch. This
mhm,
has to happen on the front end. So, Dr. Nikki, talk about what that looks like for us and where we may miss it, or maybe where you may have missed it
mhm,
when it comes to, because we have like we're gonna give y'all these 12 steps, I believe, or 15 steps about before you deploy. And I may skip around some of them, but let's talk about that
mhm, mhm.
transporting part first and what that looks like.
And so what's interesting is when I prayed about just to prepare myself, the first thing that popped in my mind, okay, y'all, I'm gonna keep it real, was a Jerry curl. Okay. For those of you that don't know what a Jerry curl is, please Google it and don't make me feel old. Okay. I wanted a
That
Jerry
one,
curl
baby.
so bad. This was before I realized my hair was curly, y'all. I wanted a Jerry curl so bad, but we're not gonna talk about that. So to answer your question, listen, A Jerry curl is a process. I have a girlfriend that I've known since the eighth grade. And in the eighth grade, she had the most beautiful Donna Summer looking Jerry curl. And baby, let me tell you something. When she went to go get her perm, you know how you have to go in and get your touch up. They left the process in too long. All of her hair fell out. So to answer that question, I need you guys to really, really get this. And this was me. The reason my business failed, and I always like to say it like this, since this is here and I'm supposed to be drinking this water, you cannot see the label from inside the jar. So every day you are alive, you are in the jar called you, but you can't see your label. So there are things intrinsic to your DNA, distinct natural ability, that you are and that you do that you don't realize. So let me go back to my story. The reason my business failed, y'all. Okay, so I told you I worked in entertainment for a reason. Do you know what I do now? Is I produce my clients. Hello, somebody. I'm casting and producing. I'm doing the same thing I did in entertainment, but now I'm doing it for God. Come on and gain for God, right? But I didn't see that. And I was overlooking it. And when my coach started asking me questions, my coach at the time, because now you're looking at my coach that's here with me now. But listen, my coach at the time said to me, listen, Nicole, you are helping other people produce programs, but you don't have programs. And then I began to package it. I'm sharing that with you guys to answer this question. Here's what I need you to get. Let me say it one other way and then I'm gonna answer it. It just popped in my mind. You know how there are times when you lost your keys
Mm-hmm.
and you keep walking past them and you're looking all over the house and then somebody walks up and go, they're right there. And they've been there the whole time. That is in essence. So that first part of that launch is to get you clear on every area you need to understand fully and completely to ascend to the next, not for where you are, because you know that. And that's why I think people get confused or misunderstand is because they're already brilliant. And we're not saying you're
Mm-hmm.
not brilliant. But when God is stretching your gift,
Mm-hmm.
there's another level of you that needs to come forward. What's the Bible say? Bible verse say, glory to glory. So we're not talking
Mm-hmm.
about glory. We're talking about the next glory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think people don't realize there are steps to the process
That's
to
right.
begin to even launch to ascend to that height.
And I love that because I think the other part of that is that we don't understand is when she was talking about the Jerry curl, and I did used to rock one, but one of the things that happens is your hair takes on a new nature, a new characteristic.
Mm.
And some of the times, certain types of hair follicles accepted and some types rejected. And so, what we sometimes don't understand is that when it comes to the transportation part, is are we willing for someone to help us move out of where we are in our minds, in our emotions, in our money into something else? You know, especially those of us that may already think I'm a subject matter expert. One of the things I love about Dr. Nikki is that she could say, look, I get my former glory. I could do amazing things and I was on top. You know, I'm producing TV shows and I got celebrity clients, and that was great for that arena. But now that God has moved me into this territory, she was like, Dr. I need you to have this conversation with me about this arena because I'm now not in the familiar. I know what to do in that situation. I need to make sure it translates over in this situation. And I think that's where sometimes we mess up is when we don't see, because I have to do the same thing, when we don't see the need that I may be good over here, but now I'm dealing with a different group of people who have a very different set of pressure points, a very different
Mhm.
set of the way that they see things and recognize things. So the approach has to be different.
And
And
can I
so,
add, and can I add to that? Because listen, let me
absolutely.
tell you why every coach needs to coach you guys, okay? Because I just talked about the keys, right? So I had one conversation, one, not even 21, and shifted. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, so God has me in the middle of a shift too. I'm transparent. So I might be 10 steps ahead of you and know how to launch and know how to shift your atmosphere, your mindset. But I'm still in my own journey because if I'm not, just like Dr. E is too, if we're not, we'll be gone. You would have been to our funeral already. I'm not trying to be more, but I'm keeping it real. We're all in the journey still. Okay. So God is shifting me to help in a certain place. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. And Dr. E said one word, and I prayed, and God had been saying, help them get started. I was like, what does that mean, Lord? What do you mean? So the way that I was seeing it was up here. Dr. E said something, and it made me see down here. I missed all of this in the middle, y'all. It takes an outside person. There are pieces of you that you will never be able to see because you don't do what you do to you.
Oh, that's so good. That's so, y'all heard that? That was a mic drop. You don't do what you do to you. We're usually our worst clients. if we're honest.
Yep.
Right, absolutely. That's so good. Which leads me to the second point, and I think this is powerful when it comes to. And listen, I appreciate you guys for being on here. Can y'all make sure y'all share or tag somebody in and tell them get in on this, baby? We just cooking this thing up. We're gonna give y'all, probably gonna give y'all a good hour with this and get y'all in. But the second thing after a rocket is transported to the launch pad, the second thing that has to happen to a natural rocket in its physical capacity is that it has to be powered up.
Mm.
That means that right there, when it starts, that rocket already is not at the maximum capacity that it needs to be. Because think about it, this thing is about to take more than its weight and cargo and move itself from the ground outside of the natural atmosphere into a stratosphere. So that's a lot of responsibility. And I want to say this because a lot of you all that feel called to do something, you don't realize that you're not just carrying your weight, but you are about to carry the weight of those. I tell people all of the time, since I, took on this apostolic mantle, and since I was already coaching, I was already mentoring, but especially when I launched the Grow Gathering, that's a whole different set of responsibility and weight now that you are taking on. You're taking on the complexity of other people's call. You're taking on the weight of other people's worries. You're taking on the trauma of other people's trials and their triumphs, though. But it's a weight, and sometimes we don't recognize that we need to be powered up. We are not, I say all of the time that, God is not going to shift you into overflow when you're operating in overwhelm. And so a lot of we want to often use the Holy Ghost as an overdraft fee. Yeah, I don't got it, but when it's time, it's just going to come in. It doesn't work like that. We have to understand that out of the abundance of our heart, our mouth speaks. Our issues are in our heart. That's why we are to keep them with all diligence. And I think, Dr. Nicole, and you can speak to this a lot, when we are in a place where we're not full, we're not powered up, and we're trying to pour into other people. We're trying to allow the oil to flow. I'll never forget my executive admin told me once. She said, we were talking about how the oil flows from Aaron's beard,
Mm.
as the Bible says, into everybody and through his skirts and to everybody that he's covering. And she says, but if Aaron never washed his hair,
Mm.
if Aaron never made sure that somebody washed it and got the dandruff out, then the people that he's covering now are going to have oil, but that oil is going to be contaminated. And so when we are in positions to cover people, or when we're feeling like we're called to people that we're going to be pouring from, if we're not powered up in our faith, if we're not powered up physically, if we're not powered up emotionally, then we're not going to be any good. Speak to that, Dr. Nikki, about the vehicle, us, that needs to
Mhm.
be powered up before we can pour.
So what's so interesting is that so many things come in my mind. So, all these Bible verses. So let me see if I can organize my thoughts because it's so much, right? So number one, I want you guys to really get this, and I'm gonna speak from my own journey. Part of, for me, I had only known entertainment. I didn't know anything else. That's all I dreamed of. And what do you mean I'm shifting and I don't feel fulfilled? I don't understand. And I love my job, by the way, why I felt like that. Again, what was happening was God was stirring up my gift. But Ephesians 3:20, which is one of my favorite Bible verses, for he will do exceedingly abundantly above all, according to the power that works in us. Okay. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because what I didn't realize is entertainment is only 20% of my power.
Wow.
And had I not stopped to check in with me, I didn't need any strategy. Come on, somebody. I didn't need any coach at that moment. I needed me. I needed in that moment to check in with me. And here's what, that's not true. I didn't need a coach in that moment. So here's what I want you to get is I was emotionally disconnected. I was emotionally disconnected because fear was trying to paralyze me. There's another Bible verse. I'm trying to make this all go together, y'all. This is what popped in my mind while you were talking, right? That God does not give us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. He doesn't give it, but he allows it. Why? Because fear can either arm you or alarm you or disarm you. It can either alarm you and tell you something's going on. I need some strategy. I need some support. I need some help, or it can disarm you and paralyze you and keep you right where you are. And so for me in that moment, what I had to realize is that in order for me to go to this new level, I needed a new level of my gift. I needed a new level of me, which was an emotional, intellectual, a spiritual. It was all of the things. And for me, the biggest thing that was happening for me in that moment, if I'm gonna be honest, was imposter syndrome. I ain't never
Mhm.
been no coach.
Mhm.
Right. And so I'm like, how am I going to coach people? And I've never been a coach. But here's the other thing I tell my clients this all the time. You might feel like you're at 60%. Those of you that remember school, 60% was a D. Okay. So you might feel like you're at 60%, but your clients are at 5%.
Mhm.
So you're 55% more than they are. You can still help move them forward, but it was a mindset issue that was keeping me there. And the enemy will still kill and destroy to keep you right where you are, which is that disarming, y'all. He's going
Mhm.
to try to disarm you and keep you afraid so you will not go after that next hike that God has for you because, as Dr. E said a few minutes ago, there are people attached to your obedience.
Mhm.
There are people that need you. See, God crafted and created you the way that He crafted and created you because you're the answer to a problem. And every day you let fear stop you, or procrastination, which by the way is laced in fear. I can keep going. Any negative emotion, I guarantee you, fear is attached to it.
Mhm.
Anytime you let those things stop you, it's not just about your blessing, it's all the people that need you.
That needed. That's so good. I love what Leslie just said. Maybe I'm afraid to launch because I'm used to playing in the background, and
Woo!
that is so good. I say all the time, and she said it a different way, that the emotion of fear is an assistant, but the spirit of fear is an assassin.
Mm,
And so the emotion is there to assist you to say, "Hey, you don't before you do this, you need to be connected to somebody who's going to help you get these things done." And so we don't invalidate the emotion of fear and say, "Devil, I rebuke you." No, 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 no. That's an emotion that was embedded in us to say, "Hey, you don't have everything in that particular arena." So the emotion of fear is saying, you need to cultivate the way that you speak a little bit more. You need to have a little bit better way to serve your clients. You need to streamline that approach just a little bit. And so the emotion of fear may say, "I need to lean over into a coach." But the spirit of fear is an assassin. It will tell you, "You can't ever do this. This is not for you." And I also want to bring up something right here too, as well, when it comes to our failure to launch. Is when I say that the vehicle gets powered up, I say all the time we demonize what we can't discern.
mm,
And what I've noticed a lot of the times is that when we don't understand something, or when we don't understand our rights and privileges, especially as kingdom citizens, we will play low ball. We will hide in the background because we don't understand that we can do this. One of the things we don't understand is that we have permission to change our minds about something. Dr. Nikki said, I was in the entertainment arena and I felt the unction of the Lord pull me somewhere else. That does not mean that I was a failure in one place, because I began to go to a different place. And so, again, our natural nuance is to demonize it. You don't know what you're doing. The people are not going to want you because I'm not discerned my ability to operate in that arena. And I don't
mm,
know who needs to hear this, but you're not confined to just help one particular set group of people. And it's funny because she and I are doing the opposite things at the same time. I've cultivated kingdom curriculum, and now the Lord is now moving me more into entertainment to start operating with different other clients, helping them create communities and things that they did not have before. He didn't change who I was. I didn't have to go out and get unsaved. I didn't have to go run. He let me cultivate something for the kingdom and said, "Guess what? Y'all not the only people that need it." And so before we look crazy, because again, we demonize what we can't discern. If the Bible says that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just, wicked does not mean that they are evil. Wicked may just be that they do not operate in the same level of truth and direction that we do, as we are submitted to the Lord. But the wealth is still laid up for the just. Well, how do we get it? It's not just going to magically open up out the sky and just pour down on us.
mhm,
That means that He's able to position us in places where we have spheres of influence outside of the 5 people that we know in our house, and outside of the 8 people that we're connected to or that we talk to. And so part of that powering up is to be able to allow ourselves to launch outside of where we are, and to some people that we may not know.
mm,
We used to know back in the day, we wanted to just stay. People like to be cliquish. They want to just stay. I don't want people knowing my business. I remember starting a mentorship, and and getting in there. And I remember even Dr. Nicole, and she'll say it, she'll just like, I'm not the one to be telling stuff, but when you create a safe place and people are actually getting help and they're actually cultivating, look, I didn't come here because I need strategy or whatever. I needed a time out. I needed the ability to breathe. I needed to be powered back up. And just speak to even just that for a moment, because
Mhm.
sometimes powering up just means mentorship. It just means somebody saying to you the things that you're always saying to somebody else. Just talk about that particular thing as well.
So, the thing that I've learned in my journey is that your purpose matriculates. I'm going to answer her question, but I want to say this, right? So, again, if we were done, we wouldn't be here anymore. And God never wants you to settle for where you are, right? Was it level by level, glory by glory? Okay. So, if you want to stay where you are, that's called deliberate mediocrity. And that's
That's so
essential.
good. Deliberate mediocrity.
So
That's
I
right.
need you guys to get this. When I left entertainment, and I didn't realize this then, y'all. What's that Bible verse say? All things work together, or does it say a
All
few things
means
work together?
all.
Just say a couple things work together. Okay. So all things. So I didn't realize then. One of my clients told me I was producing her. I was like, oh, I am. Right. I loved casting. I was really good at it. I still get phone calls to this day. Some film calls to ask me to be casting on it every now and then. I might consult sometimes, but I don't. Listen, I need you to get that. I'm not saying it in a bragging kind of way, but I am saying I was kind of good at it. So to walk away, it was scary. But what I realized is God was matriculating my gift to another level. Many of you don't realize that God is trying to expand your territory. What's that prayer, Jabez? Expand your territory, which means it's going to be bigger than where you are. It's going to be scary. It's not going to look like you thought it was going to look. So for me, going into this unknown, listen, I think God does this on purpose. I'm going to be honest. He does it so we have to rely on him. Otherwise, we'd be full of ourselves and we wouldn't give him any credit.
Mhm.
So for me, it was really relying on God and understanding how to do this thing at a new level. But here's the other piece, you guys. Again, you never stop growing. So I'm in a new growth place. Okay. So I'm about to be really transparent. So last year I finally said yes to my calling in the ministry. Now I've been running for years. All my clients and all my girlfriends are like, oh, okay. Like they knew. Even my husband was like, and I was like, well, how come none of y'all push me? Right. The enemy started fighting even harder that was last August because of my yes, which is why I knew I needed both an apostolic and a business mentor, not just a regular coach. Okay, and I need y'all to get this because when God is growing you, the enemy gets busy. And I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm being honest. And he's getting busy because, listen, heaven has your name on the board. Like, yes, I got her to do this job. And the enemy sees that too. And he's going to try to stop you from doing it. So I'm sharing that with you is because I needed a place so that I could stay plugged in. We plug our cell phones in, right? If we don't plug our cell phones in, what happens? You can't charge yourself. Now, God is our ultimate source, but every now and then you need that plug that's between the source and you.
That's so
That
good.
plug was Dr. E for me. Many of you, the reason your business isn't working, or the reason you don't know what to do, or the reason you've been sitting still, the reason, and I keep going on and on, the procrastination is paralyzing you. The reason all the excuses you give is because you are not connected to your source.
Listen, that I'm telling you guys is so powerful because that's right. It has to be a safe place for cultivation because sometimes we can't hear past the noise in our own heads. And so when you can escape, one of the things I tell my team and even my mentees, and we've shifted into a mastermind, but I always say, I'm not going to change the rules to make you more complicit and complacent. I'm going to set this in front of you to cause you to prioritize yourself. I'm demanding now in this next season that you show up and be on camera. I'm demanding now in this next season that you have. And so they're like, well, usually I be in my car, and well, you can't be in your car now. So now this forces you now to tell some people no and to prioritize your time and who you are to get you to be in a quiet space. And sometimes we need somebody to pull us up and to say, I'm not coming down with this bar. There are certain times in our lives where we do need to be coddled and cultivated, but there are some times that we need to be corrected, and there are some times that we need to be coached into something, which means I'm not doing this for you, I'm going to do this with you. And which leads me to, I want to talk about, I'm going to skip around But I want to talk about this. This is so good when it comes to why you need to be connected and why you could be delaying your launch. Is because there's something that happens when an actual my boo on, hey PKO, when it's time to shift and take off. Is there something that an actual rocket has to go through called a flight readiness poll, and it takes hundreds for a rocket of people that are involved. Somebody is checking the weather. Somebody is getting updates. They're constantly looking at different components to see if you're ready. You could be ready over here, but right now we still powering up. You could be ready over on this side, but over here you're still not there. And so it takes a moment. And then I love it that it's the flight director that gets the final go or the no go before we say you can launch. And I've been having these conversations with my leaders and the people that are covered by me apostolically in the grow lately, when we've been talking about not getting caught without cover. And I had no idea that the one thing that was going to get everybody accountable is when the Lord gave me this new phrase that I started introducing called more grace. Now, usually in the kingdom, that's great. Yay, more grace. But they figured out that when I say no grace, more grace, that means do whatever you want to do. You didn't ask me, you didn't consult with the Lord, you didn't see if, hey, I just want to, I don't need you to tell me what to do, but can I just submit this and you tell me if I'm covering you now? Because I would tell them, I said, how am I covering you with traveling mercies if I don't know? And I'm looking up and seeing pictures you cross the country and
Mm.
then you lunching something and then it flops and then you come back to me wanting to know why you've lost all this money. Well, you didn't consult in the first place. Because if I'm coaching or if I'm cultivating or if I'm covering you in any capacity, then you expect that I have an ear towards heaven, but also have eyes that are strategic to be able to look and lean into what you could potentially be missing. And sometimes, and I think we mentioned this at the beginning, we don't do this flight readiness check. Dr. Nikki said we just want to, I wanted to just jump and be at this level before I look to see. And I say this to people all of the time. You might be ready when it comes to your strategy, but you are flunking when it comes to your emotional stability. And
Mm.
so it doesn't matter if you can obtain it, you can't sustain it, and your doggone show can't retain or maintain it. And so a lot of what we want to do is we look at certain things and say, okay, money is good over here. Well, your money could be good, your mindset is amiss. Or you could be saying, well, I could work on our money, but right now I feel the best emotionally that I feel right now. And so it's time to go. Your emotions might be good, but you haven't built any relationship capital. There are always issues and there are always things that a person that you have said, listen, I trust you. My best friend is on here. We trust each other to submit big things, to say, listen, I'm going to submit this to you and I'm going to wait for your feedback. My one of my daughters, my spiritual daughters, the other day, she had reached out to ask me if I was busy and I was on a call. And an hour later, I said, okay, I'm available. And she said, oh, well, I was going to post something and I wanted you to read over it and look over it and release it, before I send it. And she was like, don't worry, I wasn't posting it until you were able to put your eyes on it and give me in the spirit anything. And the Lord had given me some things in the spirit that were confirming that I did not know that I just was able to do that. Now, we don't like that because that gives us responsibility, but it gives us accountability. And to me, I don't want to get caught without cover.
Mm.
I don't jump out and do nothing until I come to the people that I am accountable to and position this and say, this is what I'm feeling. I know what I hear the Lord saying, but maybe it's not the right timing. And so why is it important, or what have you seen, or what has happened when you have or have not done this in the realm of flight readiness, when it comes to we're ready, and why it's so important that we get these boots on the ground, and why it's so important that we make sure that we allow ourselves to be submitted to a person or a process
Mm.
before we start trying to pilot. Let's talk about that for just a quick
That's
moment.
so good. Okay, so listen, y'all. Okay, so I am not a drawer. Okay, but this is me being rogue. Okay, so listen. There are four quadrants in your life. Okay, as she was talking, this is what was popping up in my spirit. Four quadrants. Okay, one is emotional, mental. Second is intellectual. Next is financial. Last is spiritual. Many of you are off. One of your quadrants is off, and so you're rolling lopsided. One of the things I've learned is that your business, your purpose can never outgrow you. So if your emotional quadrant is off, your financial quadrant is off. If your spiritual quadrant is off, you already know all the rest of those are off. So you've got to be clear when you are in deficit of one, what do you need to pull it forward? I've had to learn in my own journey. And then, by the way, the higher you grow, what my pastor used to say, the bigger the level, the bigger the devil, right? Because the more you grow, then those need more. And then the enemy comes to attack one of those that you are feeling very, very vulnerable in.
So good. So good.
So it's being clear in where you are and what you need. And sometimes, can I be honest, you don't even know what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And so
That's
I'll be
good.
honest, last year when I was like, oh my God, this spiritual warfare is beyond I've ever dealt with. Okay, keeping it real. Because I know it's because I say yes to my calling, right? I reached out for help. I didn't even know what I needed, but I reached out because I knew I couldn't figure it out or else it wouldn't have been so great.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to be willing. I always say you've got to be willing to invest at the level to which you want to see the return.
Mm-hmm.
We hear seed time and harvest all the time, but many of us want harvest and don't want to do anything with any kind of seed.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. And so I think that's really what it is knowing where you are, knowing where there's deficit. And sometimes if you don't know, is getting in a community that can help you figure it out. It's not just about your intellect, y'all. It's not just about strategy. You got to have emotional slash mental. You've got to have financial. You've got to have spiritual. You've got to have all of it at play to get to the heights that God has for you.
That's so powerful. And now she doesn't know this. Like I said, I didn't. She wasn't able to come to the lunch event, so she doesn't know that I've taught this. But one of the next things that happens in a lunch, and I'm skipping around some of it, but she just articulated it, and I want you to see how this translates over into the natural. There is a component of an actual rocket launching that's called max Q, and at T point plus 90 seconds, the vehicle passes through the area of maximum dynamic pressure.
Mm,
During this period, the rocket experiences the biggest gravitational pull and the most drag while experiencing the maximum thrust, which puts an incredible amount of stress on the vehicle structure. I'm
mm,
trying not to run. So,
mm,
what she just said was at the point where I am supposed to be launching the furthest, I feel the biggest pull to move into it. That is actually the same time where you feel the biggest gravitational pull to keep you grounded at the moment. You're saying, and this is why we can sometimes be responsible for delaying our lunch, because we're saying it just seemed like every time I'm ready to push up, that's gravitational pull. That's actually supposed. Stop being surprised that every time you're ready to invest, every time you're ready to take the step forward, every time you're ready to move to the next level, something pulls you back. Well, you're trying to break out of a stratosphere. You're trying to break out of an atmosphere that you have already acquiesced to. You're trying to break out of an atmosphere that you've already assimilated yourself to. And the Lord is trying to say, I've got to, you're going to pull, you're going to feel the tension between where you are and where you're meant to be. And while you're thrusting, you're going to feel, that's why I feel the power. That's why every time it's time for you to move forward, the enemy starts to mess with familiar spots. He has no idea. Don't let him fool you. He might know that you're going, but he doesn't know where you're going.
come
And so
on.
what he does is, because he is not omniscient, he is not omnipresent, he is not almighty and all knowing, what he will do is he will use context clues to keep you where you are. And he does that through the spirit of familiarity. He knows that when he messes with your marriage, you gonna pull back. He knows if he messes with your money, you gonna pull back. He knows if something foolish happens over at the ministry, you gonna pull back. And so what he does is he finds ways to deal with the familiar part on the ground. Notice he's never gonna deal with you in the next atmosphere, because he doesn't want you pulling in that place. So what he'll always do, this is that gravitational pull, that as soon as you get to the maximum dynamic pressure, when
Mm,
you feel the pressure the most, that's when the enemy, that gravitational, that's when you start getting those what you doing texts trying to pull you back in. That's when you getting those, you know what, you need to go on vacation, treat yourself. No, you need to put that money up and save because you need a decent vehicle. That's when you begin to feel the pull. He's trying to pull you back into something, that gravitational pull, to keep you on the ground so that you will not launch. And if we are not careful, and if we don't have people that are committed to helping us launch, that are committed to helping us move forward, a
mm,
real person, a real coach, a real friend, a real mentor, a real covering is going to say, stand down. You no, you're not. You're not gonna do. You're headed somewhere, and that's that same. When we just talking about this same thing happened at this same time last year. Yeah, no, we're not. You might not be able to see it, but I can see it, and I will not allow you to go into this same cycle when you should be in another stratosphere. Of course, you bringing this stuff to me, and you wondering, I just need you to go to the Lord in prayer. I don't have to. This
Mm,
is not a. This is not anything that I need to even put on my prophetic help to help you with. You're getting ready to shift out of this pool, this atmosphere, this stratosphere, and you're getting ready to go to a place where you've never been. So of course, all of the people who benefit from you being on the ground are gonna start pulling from you. Of course, they're gonna all of a sudden their issues gonna show up, and they could nobody do this but you right now.
mm,
Of course, this is when everybody starts. But of course, that's when it's going to happen because you are at the biggest gravitational pull of your life, and so this is where gravity is trying to ground you. And that's when I'll say, oh, no, 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 no. Say, now you're not about to respond to that. You're not about to react to that. I always tell people that our reaction is what we do on the outside, but our response is what we do on the inside. When you have somebody who you've given some level of authority to help coach and cultivate you, sometimes they got to cut you and say,
mm,
and I see you doing this. I see you standing down, but I see your emotions. You still in the spirit of offense. And that
mm,
offense is going to cause offense when it comes to your finances, when it comes to your future, when it comes to your friends, when it comes to your foundational framework. And so we've got to start digging and getting to the root of this thing. And so
right.
um I appreciate it. Sherry said there should be more people on this live. We listen, we're gonna my prayer is that when this is posted, that folks gonna come back, watch the replay. They're gonna try to find Dr. Nikki, they're gonna try to find me, they're gonna say, what do y'all have to offer? Because we don't need to be caught without cover. But
Mhm,
but Dr. Nikki, I know we're bringing this to a close, but I wanna lean into something and ask you about one of the things that I did my study and as it relates to a rocket ship launching, there are two things, the same thing, but it happens at two different stages. And what it's called, one is called Miko, and one is called Seco. And what it's called is main engine cutoff and
mm,
second engine cutoff. And
mm,
what happens is after a while, after they're put off, the thing that used to keep the rocket running, it shuts down, and it gives you the opportunity to begin to coast on your own. And I know that this speaks to sometimes our unhealthy reliability on other things that keep us from operating in. And I love that there's a main engine shut off, but then a little bit later, there's something that happens before it does it again. Talk about the need sometimes for that main engine to shut off, and especially
mhm,
sometimes when I'm just used to the Lord giving me every single step. I'm just used to that's my main engine, and then He gets quiet because He's saying, if I keep giving you all the steps, you're not trusting me. I gotta wait to see if that we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of power may be of God and not of us. And so let's talk about the times when He shuts the main engine off,
mhm.
and we done got spoiled, and we've not realized that He'll pull back for a moment, so that we'll use our own strength and our own power.
Mm. So good, so good. So, many of you, if you're in a career, I know this has happened to me when I worked in entertainment. Again, what God was doing was shutting off my main source. And I didn't realize it. And let me tell you this. Again, this was 1993, y'all. I had never heard of a coach. I don't even know when coaching came out. And yet that's what I felt a draw to do. Every single one of my friends kept saying, Nicole, are you crazy? And I wanted to say, yeah, I feel crazy because I did. Because I didn't know what to call this thing I was doing. I didn't know how to do it. All I knew, I didn't even know how I was going to get paid for it. All I knew is what God kept pouring in my spirit. I believe that God sends you just enough manna, just enough to get you to the next step. Like Abraham had to, God told Abraham to go. I'm going to make you a great nation. But he didn't tell him how long it's going to take. He didn't tell him exactly where to go. He gave him step by step. You have to go to the first step or you get the second step. And I
Mhm,
think for many of us, we wouldn't even take the first
mhm.
step. What I've learned in my own journey is that your courage, or no, not your courage, your conviction and your comfort will never coexist.
My
When
God.
God is stirring something up in you, you've got to release being comfortable about it.
Wait a
So,
minute. Let me say that again because I need y'all to know that was a mic drop. Your conviction and your comfort. will never coexist. I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, you know what? That is true. Anytime I've been convicted to do something, my comfort does not coexist with that. And that is where I have to put courage in. Woo,
So
keep
you
going.
got
That
to
was a mic
rely
drop.
on
So
God. Like,
good.
okay, Lord, I know you're telling me to do this. So I don't know how the heck this is going to happen. This is how I pray. I don't know if y'all talk to God like this. This is how I talk, right? I don't know how the heck this is going to happen, but I'm trusting you. Direct my path. Show me the way. And I'm in the middle of it. It's like you're out on the water. Y'all remember this? Jesus walking on the water? You're out on the water, Peter. And you got to just trust that you're not going to sink, especially if God is directing you. But at the same time, you've also got to get strategy so you know how to walk on that water. So for me, the reason my business failed, those of you that were here at the beginning, if you didn't go back and listen to my story, the reason my business failed for 17 years is because I knew I was called to do this. I didn't know how to do it. It wasn't until I hired a coach that they could show me so that I could, if I'm gonna be all the way honest, I was doing it comfortably. I was doing just a little bit over here and a little bit over there, just being comfortable. When I hired that coach, which that coach cost me like 50,000, I had never paid for nothing like that in my life. Okay, so scary, but I knew that she had the strategy that I needed. That 50,000 turned into 200,000 within 6 months. And I'm only sharing that with you because many of you will stay where you are because it's comfortable, or you'll make every excuse. Excuse is bumping into your comfort. God don't care about your comfort. He don't care about your comfort, your bank account. He doesn't care what's on your calendar. He doesn't care about your job. He doesn't care about your none of that. He's checking your faith.
That's so good. Y'all, listen, and I told you guys, I'm so excited that to have Dr. Nikki, who, like I said, has worked, and it's funny, my friend PKL that's here has also worked on sets and with the celebrity casting, and Dr. Nikki has done casting with celebrity shows and this great stuff. And she's saying that even I had to transition and move into a different place. So if I had to do it, I know y'all gotta do it. The last two things I want to address before we close this out, and let me just take a quick poll. If this has been blessing you guys, can y'all throw number one in the comments? I just want us to see that this has been right on point with where you guys are and where you're going. And I want to, we don't cast pearl to swine around here. We don't waste oil. So I want to make sure that this is really having an impact on you guys as you're listening and taking this in, this pop up. I sent her a message and said, I just think we need to go live, and she was like, I'm in. And really let the people hear what you have. She has something amazing that she's going to share with you in a moment that I believe many of you guys will benefit from. But as we close this, I want to give you these last two things that happens when a rocket is about to launch, because we're dealing with, are you delaying your launch? And one of the things that happens that we don't like to hear is something called first stage separation.
Mm,
And we don't like this because what happens is after the main engine cuts off, it says that the first stage section of the rocket has to separate from the rest of it. And there comes a time when we are in this place where it might have been some people that were able to go with us during part one of our journey, during the part where we've not shifted out of the stratosphere. We're still able to move around together, but when it's time now to accelerate, you need some space free. You don't have the capacity to carry that kind of weight in space, and so there's something that is called the first stage, and then it does it again, the second stage separation, where you go through consistent stages. I know that we like our day ones, and I know that we want to take everybody. Our heart is in the right place, and we want to. But I always say this: that somebody has to win to give the rest of us the strategy.
mm,
The reason why we send rocket ships on the moon and we send them into outer space, so they can send us back a signal and a sign to let us know what is there first, so that they can come back and report their findings. This is a twofold. We've got to be okay with releasing people to shoot out into their destiny so that they can go get a perspective that we might not have and bring us their findings. At the same time, we have got to be okay with dropping heavy loads. If we're going to tell the truth, I'm always trying to take care of my mom and them. You got 5 other brothers and sisters. Take your hands off and make somebody else put their hands on. I'm always broke. No, you're not always broke. You're always answering your cash app. Start blocking folks off of there, and they can't get any money right now in this season, because in this season you're seeding into what you are called to do and where you're called to go. And so we've got to get comfortable with the fact that if we are going to launch out, we're going to have to let go, but we're also also going to have to be let go of. And we got to stop being offended when people who we used to have access to in a former time, we don't have that same level of access to. It's because they're in the stratosphere. And guess what? I don't know about you, but you can't make no quick cell phone call to somebody that's in outer space. Let me just FaceTime you real quick. No, they're in another stratosphere, getting fresh downloads and new perspectives to see and hear. And they may not have the capacity, or they might not even be in the space, the physical, the emotional, the mental space to have these kind of conversations. I say all
Mhm.
of the time that I know when we deal with gamma and theta and beta and all of the different facets of our mind, waves, that there's a place where our mind operates almost as like sleep mode. But when my mind is operating again, when I am at a high level where I'm thinking, I'm working, I'm building this over here, I'm doing the internal inventory, or I'm actually doing back office funnels, and I'm doing this, and then I'm thinking, and I'm preaching, and I'm prophesying, and I'm being apostolic, and I'm doing this and this and this. You come to me with something simple like, hey, what are you eating today? I have no idea what just came out of your what, because I haven't even, my mind frame or whatever you may be
Mhm.
talking about might be so far out of the level or the area where I'm concentrating on, that you might think I'm acting funny. But it's just that I've rewired my mindset to think and feel and hear differently, and it just doesn't compute for me right now. And so we've got to get to a place where we're not so offended when people start ascending, when people start accelerating, or we've got to stop being so scary, and so wanting to need to be validated by holding on to everybody, because you got to just tell some people, hey, turn me a loose. I've got to be able to shift, hands off in this season. I need y'all to free up and give me some space, because
Mhm.
I've got to shift and go to the next level. So speak to that for a moment, Dr. Nikki, and then we'll give them our last point, and let them go. But I just think that this is very important for them in this space.
So good. So you guys see me writing stuff down because listen, I'm learning and I'm here sharing. Okay. So you see me taking notes too. I'm just saying. So listen. So what the first thing that came to mind when you were talking, okay, this is so good, y'all. And let me just keep it all the way real. The reason I didn't come to the launch is because God has had me in the wilderness
Wow.
and it's time for me to come out. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. Okay. I need y'all to get this. So I've been obedient the last 6 months. It's been hard, but I'm glad I did it. So listen, what was coming in my mind was when a plane takes off. Have you guys ever thought about the fact that they make you weigh your bags? They make you weigh your bags because if the plane is too heavy, it will
Come on.
crash. That's what happened with Aaliyah, y'all. Y'all know the singer Aaliyah? Her plane was too heavy because it had too much equipment on it. Her plane crashed.
Mm.
So when Dr. E was talking about all the baggage, hello, if you didn't hear it, that's what I heard. The baggage many of you have because you're trying to hold on to 1985. Or maybe that's me. Or you're trying to hold on to yesterday's career that you wrote down. You know that list you wrote in your 20s and you're trying to check all of it off when that's done. God has more for you than that, or that your best friend that you've known since you were 5. And sometimes you've outgrown them and it's time to release them. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but you've got to know when it's time to go or time to grow. There's a difference. And for some of you, the reason you can't take off is because your plane is too heavy. Your baggage is too heavy, and you've got to release the emotional ties that are weighing you down. I will tell you that one of the biggest lessons I learned when my business transitioned, I told you guys from 13,000 to 200,000, and it was 13,000, seriously, was my emotional baggage. Listen, I'm from South Central LA. So if I'm gonna keep it all the way real, I call it my bankroll zip code was zero. I was saying things like we robbing Peter to pay Paul and all kind of things that kept my mindset in deficit. I couldn't even see six figures because I had never seen that. Not growing up in my neighborhood, not in my family, none of that. I had to begin to put myself in an environment that was conducive to the growth. I'm now working on my $1 million business. Come on, somebody, right? So I've got to put myself in an environment to conducive to that growth. Listen, last thing I'm going to say, the word profit means to gain. See, what God wants you to do is gain for Him. So how do you gain when you got baggage holding you down? How do you gain when you're relying on who you used to be or the things that used to work that no longer work because God has a new level for you to ascend to? That is what's happening here for many of you. I love that somebody said they were busy trying to be in the background. That was me, by the way. Nobody realizes this and nobody believes me when I say this, but I'm actually shy. So if you see me in public, if I'm on stage, is one thing. But if I walk in the room, I sit down by myself because I'm still shy. I fight through it every day to do this thing I'm called to do. Why? Because this is God's calling in my life. I don't get to choose, right? And so I need you to get that what God is doing is many of you are here not by coincidence. It's time to stretch into your next. It's time to release what's holding you back, holding you at yesterday, so you can go after your tomorrow.
Oh, this is so good. Y'all, as we bring this to a close, and I really want you guys, if you did not share this, to go and share this. But Dr. Nikki is about to release something to you guys and talk about something that I think is going to be a blessing, especially for those of you all that are saying, I haven't quite gotten off the ground yet with where I want to be. But I want to close this by saying that I skipped over a lot of steps, but the final step, we think that launching for a rocket is the final step, but it's actually not. And as I did my research, I was so surprised as I was learning about this. But the final part of the launch vehicle's mission is to deliver its payload to its intended orbit.
Mm,
That means your mission isn't complete until you've delivered at your destination. Your
mm,
assignment is not complete until you've walked into the totality of your call. I need y'all to hear me very clearly on this. Second Corinthians 4:7 explains this so much. It says that we, and I said it earlier, we have this treasure
mm,
in earthen vessels, that the excellency of power may be of God and not of us. It's not just because we've launched. I put it out there. Your mission isn't complete until you've delivered what you're supposed to deliver. Have you done what God has designed? This is where we have the issue. This is where we
mhm,
have the problem. Is just because you don't put your little flyer up and you didn't bought your little domain, and we want to stop there, and I'm saying little because we make it such a big deal, and
mhm,
then once we do it, we do as my preschool, my elementary school teacher used to say, we rest on our laurels. We think that's my accomplishment, and so I'm good now. But just because, or even me, just because you made this type of money in one season, that's nothing compared to what you're called to do in this season. And it's a different audience, so it's going to take different maneuvers, different strategies, different mindsets, different ways that you approach it. And so when it comes to launching, just because you've gotten off the ground, just because you've dropped some loads, just because you're in the air, does not mean that it's complete. The mission is not complete until you've delivered what you were carrying. And so if you're still walking around pregnant, if you're still walking around holding the thing that you're called to, then your mission is a complete. You still need a midwife. I'm helping somebody. You still need support. You still need somebody in the delivery room with you, because you've not given God what he's asked for. He's put something inside of you, and then now it's the time he wants a return on his investment. And so one of the things that I'm grateful for with Dr. Nicole is that we are the people who just don't talk about it, we be about it. And we don't just put issues out here. And I want to challenge each and every one of you all that's listening today. I know I do see some of the hideouts, so I know y'all take care of, but I see a lot of people who are not inside of the mastermind, who are not in a place where they have connected with someone who has language for their next level, someone who has the soundtrack for their next season. There's no point for you to get on here and say, oh my goodness, that was for me, if an opportunity comes in front of you and you don't take it. So I want, as we talk about this delivery, I want Dr. Nicole to talk to you a little bit about what she has created. If you're watching this from your TV or from another place, I'm gonna put the QR code up, and I'm also gonna put a link into the comments and up on the screen. But Dr. Nicole, tell them about, as we've talked about this and we're bringing this to this conclusion, the people who have failed to launch, the
mhm.
people who have had trouble taking off, having trouble getting off the ground to get where they are. Talk to them about what you've created for them.
Okay, so first, transparent moment. Okay. So 2 weeks ago, God woke me up and said, help them get started. Okay. So I've been teaching methodology for the last 30 years. I'm, blueprints and helping people create multiple streams of income in their business. And God was like, they need a basic level. And I didn't know what that was. Right. And the more I prayed about it, the more I prayed about it. And Dr. E, thank God for her, because she definitely said exactly the same thing God said when I reached out to her. And then God said they need to be wired for takeoff. And I want you to get this. You've been wired, but you are disconnected. So those of you that maybe you haven't started, or you've started and hasn't worked, or you're afraid, fear is present, or you have all these thoughts and ideas and you don't know where to begin, or you're one of those four quadrants I talked about earlier, where either your emotional, mental, your financial, your spiritual, your intellectual, all four, something seems off. If you're in any of those or any place close to it, then this is for you. Now, let me tell you, I created this in 2 weeks because listen, when God tells me to do something, I am obedient because I'll be teaching you live. It starts May 13th and I have limited space. Why? Because I'm teaching you guys live and I'm coaching you live. So that means I can only take a certain number of people. And I'm sharing with Dr. E's tribe first. Why? Because my coach helped me get this together. She helped me get wired for takeoff. Come on, somebody. So this is for you if you're ready to have a coach that's going to hold you accountable and is going to help you get in position to start your business the right way. Even if you don't know if you want to start a business, but you know you want to figure out what your purpose is, this is for you. Okay. Wiredfortakeoff.com. There's so much there on the page, but this is an intensive. Why? Because as we looked at and as Dr. E and I were talking about and really looking at this being like a boot camp like experience, think about what a boot camp is. Do you realize that a boot camp is basic training in the military forces, and you cannot proceed in your military career without understanding the basics first? And the reason many of you are starting the wrong way is because you don't have the basics aligned. And so I want to help you do that. I want to help you craft and create you to gain for God, because ultimately that's why I do everything I do as the Bankroll Your Brains expert, to give you the tools, the insight, the technique, and the coaching, and a little fire and but too, to get in alignment with the assignment God has on your life. And let me say this last thing. If you look up the definition for ministry, the third definition after the first two that says something about religion or pulpit, the third one says to serve a group of people. I wonder if you all realize that you each have ministry. God has crafted all of us to serve a group of people that need us. And the reason you're here, I believe, is because there's a warrant out for your arrest. I said it. There's a warrant out for your arrest. See, there are angels looking for you because you're not doing the thing God crafted and created you to do. The angels in heaven are out looking for you, and they've summoned you to this live, whether you're here live or you're watching a replay. If that's you, I look forward to coaching you. I look forward to coaching you, pouring into you, holding a space for you to do the thing that God created you to do, to master the marketplace. So, Dr. E, I appreciate you. I am honored. I just, God knew what he was doing. 5 years ago, I was on a live just like this watching Dr. E, and it was her apostle with her. And when I'm trying not to cry, because girl, y'all, I'll go into the ugly cry. There's no in between with me. So I'm trying my hardest not to cry, because then you understand what I'm saying. So the thing that I realize is that when you're obedient and you continue to watch, and then when I reached out to you last year, I was like, it's time. She's the one. And I'm gonna tell you, baby, when you trust what God puts in your spirit and you allow people to serve you, I just want to say thank you, because there's no way I would have seen what was possible without you. So thank you for all you are. Thank you for all you pour into all of us. And just know, y'all, if she's pouring into me, I'm pouring back into y'all. So just know the overflow is real and it's coming. So Wired for Takeoff is where you go. And you can see by the way, I have never done anything this I don't want to say cheap because I'm not cheap. This low
Affordable. Mhm.
affordable. Yes, because I'm not cheap,
Mhm.
y'all, right? So, and neither are you. So $500 full pay or $97 a month.
Wow.
Hmm. That's it.
So, thank you, Dr. Nikki. I'll say this as we close this. When you hear a word like this, I was saying, are you delaying your launch? Are you delaying your launch? And so, I want you guys to take a personal inventory into your responsibility. The part we can't. What Dr. Nikki and I do is we make sure that we are not. That we are inexcusable. So when we come before the Lord and you don't get to go up there and say, nobody told me, they didn't give me an opportunity, they didn't make it for, I can look at some of those cash app receipts and see that y'all spend more than $97 a month from Chick-fil-A to weed to getting just doodads at Target. You can go in there and spend $200 on, I'd come back and say 3 candles and some Febreze. I just, what happened? So, we choose where we want to put our treasure, but wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart is. And I believe that your heart needs to be connected to what you're purposed and what you're called to do. And And so I'm grateful for the Lord allowing there to be different levels of things for people at different states that they are in. And so I'm honored anytime
Okay,
that I
I forgot
can.
one thing to share. Look, I
Uh
forgot
oh.
one thing to share. So listen,
Oh,
y'all.
she got something to share for y'all, guys.
Let it roll. So my book, It's Your Time to Shine, which is a due. It's weekly reflections. You're getting this as a gift when you enroll. I forgot to say that. So you
Y'all
get it
get a
right when you
gift.
enroll. Forgot to say that part. So
Listen, y'all know I don't endorse everybody and anybody. I don't play those games. And so I am, when I bring somebody in, I know it's because they've been vetted, they've been tried and true, and they've won in every different sector. And so I know that this might be really, really good for you guys. And so I want you all to know that we support Dr. Nikki in this venture. If you have questions, when you go to the link, you'll be able to reach out and figure this out. If you're inside of the Grow Gathering, we'll definitely also put this information there for you. I just want to make sure that I extend this to you guys because it is something amazing that I know that I want everybody to launch. I want to see y'all all up there in the stratosphere doing what you're called to do. So I'll end by saying this, and thank you again, Dr. Nikki, for being here. I think this is wonderful. I want to end by just saying this very, very quick thing, and stay on with me, Dr. Nikki. I'm going to talk to you in just a second. But I want to end by saying this to you guys. Hear me. When you hear this word, whether you are getting into this program or whether this was just an on time word for you today, what you have to do is, one, you have to accept this word. You have to accept that what you heard today was for you. Secondly, you have to agree with this word and say, I agree that I am wired for takeoff, that I need to be wired for takeoff, that I need to stop delaying my launch. But then third, you have to activate the word. Faith without the work is still dead. So it doesn't mean matter that you some good feel good moments and some good points you could write down. If you're not already connected with a community or in a program that helps you launch, you activate this word by doing something. The Bible says that when you commit your work to the Lord, your plans will be established. I don't care what you planned. Are you doing the work? And sometimes the way to commit your work is to sign up for things and connect with people that can help pour you. And so you accept, you agree, and you activate. And so thank you guys. For joining me. Like I always tell y'all, I'm not ever on social media a lot. Like I said, they said I start acting funny when I got the Grow. And so, again, you guys are always welcome to join the Grow community. Again, it's a free community. You guys can come there anytime and be a part of that. But know that when you get there, we are also going to be pushing you towards your next. We're going to be positioning you to do the work. So thank you guys. If you have not already shared this out with somebody, please do so. And then also, can you make sure that you tell somebody about this live? Tell them how amazing this was. If it blessed your life, if it gave you any type of insight and wisdom, do us a favor and let somebody else know. And I can't say when we'll be back live. I can't say when I'll be popping up again. I told you guys I'm traveling for 97 days, so make sure that you keep with it as I move into whatever God has for me next. And we will see you guys real soon. Thank you guys so much for joining.